What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Torts podcast. We want to thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're watching via YouTube or listening via the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find us. We thank you for tuning in. Huge day today. Denver Nuggets, Game 7 versus the Utah Jazz. I don't know if anybody else's heart is about to beat out of their chest, but mine is starting, especially after watching last night's game. OKC forces a Game 7. I was like, oh God, we have Game 7 tomorrow. Here we go. But you know what? I'll take it given where we were, a week ago when this team was down 3-1 and there was questions of, should Malone be on the hot seat? Do the Nuggets even have two legitimate stars? You know, are they soft? All this stuff was being thrown out about the Nuggets. And here we are. Somehow we made it to a 3-3 series, and we're going to Game 7.
Now the questions are complete opposite.
Yes. Yes.
Literally.
Yes, now everything is completely opposite. Obviously,
is Jamal Murray the greatest player ever?
Well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today because I think I'm ready to walk some stuff back. I got a chance to sleep on it a few nights, and I'm feeling like I'm back to normal now. But we're going to preview Game 7 as well and get to what I have to say about Jamal. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Game 7?
Yeah, let's just start with Game 7.
Game 7 tonight, Utah, Denver.
Or you know what? Let's talk about. We didn't talk about Game 6. Let's talk about Game 6 a little bit. And kind of just what I guess how did they win that game realistically? Because I know we both picked them to lose. You watched quarters 2, 3, and 4, right? You didn't watch the first?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were losing by, I think it was 36-30 at the end of the first quarter, and I was like, okay, just watch. Because
for those who don't know the context, I put out a poll on Twitter because Game 5 I was watching and they were getting just completely kicked in the face, and I stopped watching at halftime and they came back and won. So I put out a poll on Twitter saying, okay, should I watch Game 6 or should I stay away because I might be Jinxie Cat? And the majority, and screw off Twitter, first off, they were like, nope, stay away, don't watch. And I was like, okay, I'm
not gonna lie, I voted for you to not watch too.
I figured. I figured you did. I was waiting for the Ravens, the smoke signals, Morse codes for people to keep me updated, and I eventually watched. But yes, I digress. Go on ahead.
Yeah, I mean, since you didn't watch that first quarter, I thought it was over. Even though they were down by 6, there was no defense. Jamal was quiet. Jokic, I don't really remember who was scoring because they had 30 points, but it didn't feel like anyone was really playing well offensively either. It felt like the Jazz were up 6, but they should have been up 15. That's what it felt like. And they were up by 10 at one point in that first. And it just felt like, you know, at the end of the first, I really thought about just not watching the rest because it just didn't feel good. And then Gary Harris came in early in the second, or maybe he came in late in the first. But specifically right when the second quarter started, the game completely changed. And it wasn't him on offense doing anything. You know, it was nice to maybe have another ball handler out there instead of maybe, you know, having Torrey Craig instead of him out there. But his defense and his hustle. There was one moment where, I don't know who came down with the offensive rebound, but someone from the Jazz came down with the offensive rebound. Gary came out on the right side, swatted the ball away, and grabbed the ball. And they went on, it wasn't fast break because 4 other Jazz were down the court already. But it was like just a little play like that to regain a possession that you should have gotten originally because it was an offensive rebound for Utah. And he took an extra possession away from them. Those are the little things that he does that they, you know, and I've been saying this ever since the bubble, you know, ever since we got here into the bubble, that they need him. He is so important to what they do, and him alongside Jamal, just it helps. Like, even Jamal's defensive intensity with Gary ups. You know, it's almost like a two-headed monster with those two because they're both 6'4", 6'5". So it makes it very difficult for a 6'1" guard to really do anything. You know, it makes it makes it tough for Donovan Mitchell. He had 30 plus or whatever he had, but it just felt like every shot for him was tough. And that wasn't something that we could say the last 2 weeks. Every shot for Donovan Mitchell, it seemed like it was easy. And for the first time in the series, at least in that second quarter, it just felt like every shot he took was extremely difficult and was almost impossible. That's all credit to Gary Harris. And then at one point they had Donovan Mitchell on the court with Jordan Clarkson, right? Well, guess what Denver did? They brought out Gary and Torrey Craig, and they put Torrey on they put Torrey on Jordan Clarkson, and Gary on Donovan, because
every time I watched, Gary was mainly.
Well, they would switch. They would end up switching, but what the reason why I like Torrey on Jordan Clarkson is because Clarkson isn't necessarily a blow by guy, right? He's not going to just blow by you and get to the rim like Donovan does. Clarkson is more of a spot up shooter. He's more of a he's a guy who he's either going to cut to the rim, get a bucket, or he's going to hit a three on you, right? Where Donovan, he can do everything. And what have we said about, at least what have I said about Torrey? He struggles against smaller guards because of their speed. Well, Clarkson isn't going to blow by him, and he's a bit slower than Donovan Mitchell. He's still quick, but he's a bit slower, and so I think that helps Torrey to stay on him a little bit better, and that limited Clarkson. And then when they switch, it works. It still works because then when Clarkson got the ball and they had switched, and it was Gary, Clarkson couldn't do squat. I mean, he couldn't do anything. And that's the thing about Gary. Even though he's 6'4", he's quick enough to stick with those two guys. And not only that, but he's bigger than them. So he can get up on them and he can get physical with them. And again, if Torrey did that, they just blow right by him. They can't do that with Gary. So Gary Harris changed the game completely, and then it was the Jamal show from there. But no one's really talking about it. But Gary Harris, to me, was the MVP of that game.
Yeah, no, I mean the action I saw him play, he was active. He had energy. For being off 5 months, I thought maybe he would have some heavy legs. He was There was a couple times where Jordan Clarkson got it on the wing and tried to take Gary off the dribble. And each time Gary was just beating him to the spot. Yeah. And Clarkson, when he gets in the lane, he loves to do that little turnaround fadeaway, jumper, like a little 3-4 foot jumper. And he tried that, and he couldn't even get the space to do it. And he would just have to pass it out, or he forced it up, and it missed. So Gary was excellent. I thought Michael Malone, we saw for the first time, he actually, well, maybe not the first time, but he switched up their coverage, and it worked this time. Mm-hmm. They went from playing drop coverage to really hard hedging. I wouldn't say
you know why though, right? Because here's the thing.
Because Gary.
It's because of Gary. They did exactly what they did to Damian Lillard last year in the playoffs. They did the exact same thing, and it works.
And they trapped him. And for as good as Donovan is, he's smaller. Mm-hmm. He's probably 6'2", maybe 6'3". But I would say he's more 6'2".
He's listed at 6'1".
Okay, so he's definitely in that. I would give him 6'2", probably with shoes on. Yeah. But when he gets trapped by Gary and Jokic, I mean, every time they blitzed him and hard hedged, he wasn't able to fire that pass to Gobert, because when you do that and you leave Gobert in the middle, I mean, he's open for a split second, mm-hmm. and there was no opportunity for him to be able to throw it in there. So I thought that was interesting. The defense just played with so much more energy, And I think that a lot of that you have to attribute to Gary. And I had this, I wouldn't say argument, but this debate with a guy I work with, who hosts our fan late night show. He was trying to make the argument that Utah's two missing guys, Bogdanovich and Mike Conley, when he was gone, were more valuable to Utah than Will Barton and Gary Harris being gone. And he threw out the numbers, and Will Barton blows out Mike Conley in terms of the numbers being more valuable. I'll give you Bogdanovich for Utah because he's their second leading scorer at 20 points per game. He's got a good PER for them, so he makes an impact for them. Shooter stretches the floor. But what Gary brings won't show up necessarily in the stat sheet, but the eye test. You saw it. Do the Nuggets win that game without Gary Harris?
I don't think
in
so.
Game 6? I don't think they do. And even though he probably played maybe like 20, 22 minutes, he only scored 4 points. But just him being out there gave them such a lift. You couldn't deny seeing that. So it was great to see. And then obviously, Jamal went supernova. Jokic had a quiet game, but he picked his spots to where he was aggressive and able to get people going. But with that, I think it's just natural get to it. Jamal Murray, obviously 3 games, right? 50, 42, 50. And on Twitter, everybody's like, you know what? This is it. We had Ryan Blackburn on the podcast last time. I asked him, Ryan, has he arrived? He said yes. On Twitter, I was like, you know what? I give up. Jamal Murray's here. He's a star. I slept on it a few nights. My gut still tells me I'm not ready to go there yet. I don't believe it yet. For a few reasons. Game 7's coming up. If Jamal can do that in a Game 7, okay, then that's really getting me. Now I'm like 80 to 90% sure Jamal is here. That's one. 2, he's not doing it, and you can make an argument for the bubble, but he's not doing it in a regular playoff situation. If that was Game 6, where would that have been? Would that
have been
in
Utah.
Or Utah.
Yep.
Does Jamal go off for 50 in Utah? Does he go off for 50 in Game 4 in Utah?
I can argue the same thing about Donovan Mitchell, though.
True, because Donovan Mitchell has had moments in the playoffs where he's looked kind of off. And I think you could say that for a lot of these players in the bubble. But also, too, for someone arguing for the bubble, you could say, well, it's, obviously it's different circumstances. I mean, these guys really aren't getting any rest with all the social stuff they're dealing with, being in the bubble 50 plus days, not being around family members. Mason Plumlee in the elevator. Jaylen Brown told the story of Mason Plumlee was in the elevator with him, and he had to give himself positive affirmations. I love basketball. I love practice. I want to win. I want to be here. Like, Mason Plumlee had to tell himself this out loud. That's where these NBA players are at right now. So they're kind of borderline losing their mind.
It's tough because, and from the outside, it sounds like, oh, they're in Disneyland or Disney World, playing basketball. It's not that bad, but it is. It
after
is
3 weeks, of riding the teacup ride, and going to the Disney store. You probably get a little bit bored.
Right. And so it's not easy being in the bubble and just, for those who can make it all about basketball, and when they're on the court, they're focused, and, that all of the missing family and all of that stuff is kind of just disappears. Those are the guys that you're seeing get to another level in the bubble, right? Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell,
Kawhi Leonard, he's a robot.
Kawhi Leonard, right? So those guys that can kind of shut everything off from the outside, and those guys usually do that in a normal circumstance too, because they can block out the crowd and all that. So it works both ways, but I think there's more of a gap, because if you can't shut that out and you're missing your family, you can't, it's hard for you to just focus on basketball and that being the only thing, and you can't see your family after or before. I think for those guys, it has affected them. And I think that story that you just said about Mason, that kind of makes sense, because he hasn't played. He gave 12 fantastic minutes in Game 6, but other than that, I mean, he's only played 5 to 10 minutes, you know,
Been coming
and
off.
yeah, and so I don't know, you know, maybe he's just something behind the scenes, and Malone obviously knows it, but maybe something behind the scenes is going on with him
Well,
where
we
it's
heard too
just,
Paul George, come out,
mm-hmm,
in the
yeah,
last series, say that he was in a dark place,
yeah,
and that he was struggling with anxiety and like
right,
depression. And I could imagine just being in a hotel room by yourself. Obviously, you're with your teammates. You're not like locked in there, but all you can go to is your hotel room, the practice court, play the game, and you can go to whatever resort, you know, restaurant you've been going to. You're
right.
around the same people for 50 plus days now. So, it's, close to 2 months that you've just been
Yeah.
around these people every day. No break, no wife, no kids, no nothing.
And now there's less people, and I
Yeah.
know that they're trying to get family members in there now that there's about half the teams left at this point.
Hmm.
So that's gonna help a lot of guys, but yeah, that's tough. And you just gotta give credit to some of these guys like Jamal, and Donovan Mitchell,
Yeah.
to show up every night and you know play the way that they are. But I think also you I don't think there should be an asterisk on whoever wins the finals this year, but I do think you can put one on the numbers that we're seeing.
Yeah.
The numbers that Luka was putting up, the numbers that Jamal was putting up, the numbers that Donovan Mitchell was putting up. Even guys like Devin Booker, Karis LeVert, even Michael Porter Jr. during the seeding games, because when you are, it's for a lot of shooters, right? Where are you shooting 90% of the time? You're shooting in
Closed
an
gym.
empty gym, in a closed gym, where the depth, right? There's none of that depth of the crowd, and that does affect your shot. So when you don't have that, and you're shooting not just 90%, but 100% of the time in one of those gyms, your shooting is not only going to be better, but it's going to be consistent. And that's the biggest thing where I think it's helping Jamal. I think it's helping. That's why you're seeing the ridiculous 3-point shooting, like Dame. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, some of these Jamal shots are just ridiculous,
Hmm.
and it's because he practices those shots all the time. And when you translate those practice shots to a game in the bubble, it's the same thing. It is literally the same thing. So if he gets a shot off, because there was one point where he got blocked by Ingles, which was a great defensive possession by Ingles, but if he gets the shot off, honestly, there's a 90% chance it's going in. Same with Donovan Mitchell. Coming off that screen, if you have just a second, you're going to hit it. Whereas if it was in, normal circumstances with a crowd in an actual game, I mean, I think Donovan and Jamal may be going for 30 plus, but they're not going for 40, 50. That's not happening. So, does the result stay the same? Would Utah have gone up 3-1 if there was a normal? I don't think so. I think it would have been 2-2, to be honest. And does Denver come back from 3-1 if they were, in a normal? No, they would
I
have
don't
lost
think
in
so.
5.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways though, because I don't know if Utah wins game 2 in Denver, right? I just don't know. Is game 1 as close as it was? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Denver going
Um,
to get blown off the court, by 30 plus. Well, that game
right.
probably would have been Utah. So yes, that's probably more
Well,
conceivable.
I don't know, because if you're in Denver game 1 and say that game isn't as close as it was, and Denver maybe wins by 10, right?
Mhm.
They have a ton of momentum going into game 2. I don't think they get blown out in game 2. Maybe it's a close game, but I don't think they get blown out.
Well, and this is all too assuming too. I mean that there was no season stoppage, right? So you're assuming then you have a healthy Gary and a healthy Will as well.
Yes,
So
that's very true.
I mean, so
So
that changes the complete dynamic of
right,
of everything.
and there
Um,
wouldn't have been a Bogdanovich no matter what, because he got hurt before all that,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I believe
So
so.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I don't think, and I know there's a lot of people that had said that there's gonna be an asterisk to this season. I don't think there is. I think a lot of people have come off of it as well, because I think people are realizing how difficult it is for them, and everyone is playing at the top of well, those who are playing at the top right now, they're playing at the top of their game because they're in that gym. So it's helping
I
them.
think there's still, for me, there's still going to be an asterisk. It's not necessarily going to be one where it was like, oh, that championship was easier, because obviously we're seeing that this bubble and this environment is bringing its own set of challenges.
Right.
But at the same time, we're also seeing that it may be puffing up some guys' numbers and stuff like that. I think there will be an asterisk because at the end of the day, it's still not going through a grind of an 82 game season, getting through all those ups, all those downs, then going to the playoffs, having to deal with playing home, going on the road. Like you said, does Denver come back if they get down 3-1 in a regular scenario? Do they come back? Most likely not. If Utah gets down 3-1, are they coming back? Most likely not. It's happened, but most likely not. I still think it's just different. You're not. Plus, there's still guys missing from these teams. Some guys opted out, like the Lakers. They don't have an Avery Bradley. Portland didn't have Trevor Ariza, and Rodney Hood obviously got hurt. But I mean, they didn't have some of the guys that they had. All these teams have one guy maybe that decided not to play. So I think it'll be different. But getting back to Jamal and kind of where I'm at with this. Obviously, I mentioned consistency. I think is still in my gut. It's still a worry with Jamal.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he's blowing up. But if you look at his numbers, okay, this year he averaged 18.5 points per game in the regular season, okay, in 59 games of action. He has jumped up 16 points to 34 points per game. You don't see that type of jump ever. You want some context? Last year he was averaging 18.2 points per game in the regular season, and he only jumped up 2 points to 20 in the postseason. So that's another reason why I think these
here, let me argue
bit.
that one.
Okay.
Yes, it is a little bit boosted because of the bubble.
Right.
But what have we seen from a lot of players when they from one season to the next at right around 23 years old?
Right, they make that leap.
There's a big leap, and I think the break, and I've said it before. I'm sticking with it. The break helped Denver, I think, more than most teams, maybe than any team, because it allowed Jamal and Porter, but Porter's going through other stuff right now with being in his first playoff series. But with Jamal specifically, he got a full offseason. And what was he doing those 4 months? All he was doing was practicing. All he was doing was working out, right? He gained 10 to 15 pounds. I don't know the exact number, but 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. That has helped him a lot. And you're seeing it actually with his shooting, because he can shoot more at a consistent rate because he is stronger and he has a little bit more range. And he's just tougher. He can play you in the post. He can hit that mid-range. He can hit a mid-range turnaround jumper. And so that break has really helped him kind of hit that next level. Now, I agree with you. We're not going to get into when things get normal, whenever that is. He's not going to go out there and put up 40 a night. He's not going to be a 30 points per game scorer, at least yet, right? At 24. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll be that. But will he make a jump from maybe 18 to 24? I could see that.
It's a big jump.
It is a big jump, but you're also saying he went from 18 to breaking out in the playoffs to it leveling out into the next regular season to maybe 24. And I think that's, so in my mind, that's not really a big jump. And in some people's minds, that's going backwards, right? But what you're seeing, though, I think the important thing for Jamal, and the numbers are, again, the numbers are a bit higher than what they should be. But I also think that it's not all just the bubble. with Jamal. I do think that he's always had it in him. We've seen so many flashes of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen so many of those flashes. We saw it against Boston earlier. Remember when he took that three at the very end of the game and pissed Kyrie off?
Yeah.
We've seen these flashes. We know he can do it. It's just a matter of doing it consistently. And he, not a lot of guys have the mentality that he has. And you got to remember, his favorite player growing up was Kobe. The way his dad brought him up and the way his dad kind of molded him into that mentality of, his mental toughness and his want.
He meditates before every game.
Yeah, right. And his want to have the ball at the end. That is something that's not the bubble creating that. That's right. Jamal Murray.
Well, I don't want it to seem that I'm saying that. I think Jamal has the it. He has the attitude. Like everything is there that you want in a player.
Right.
The attitude. He's not a quitter. He's a fighter. He has all the talent in the world to do this. Like, that's not what I'm denying. It's just it's always going to come back to consistency with Jamal. And that's where I'm worried. Is this, and I thought Undisputed put it greatly yesterday when they were talking about this, is this a hot streak or is this a star being born? Because when you look at the numbers and the jump, no one's made that type of jump before. Right. Obviously, it's different circumstances, whatever, we get that. But that's along with, we know Jamal's history of, he can go out and put up a 38, 46-point game, and then the next night follow it with a 12.
He's just never done it 3 straight games.
Right.
So we're in new territory here.
Exactly. So that's part of the reason why I'm kind of questioning, really planting my flag of, because listen, if you go on Twitter and certain areas of national media and even Denver media, Jamal's not only arrived, but now this is his team. Like that, I saw Jay.
I think it is
Williams, Keyshawn.
Right now,
ready to go there.
Right now, it is. Right now, I'm not saying next year, the year after, the year after. I'm saying right now, in this series, it's his team.
I can go with you.
If they win Game 7, and they play the LA Clippers right in the second round, I think it switches back to Jokic. Because I think Jokic has a better matchup against the Clippers than Jamal does, right?
Well, and I think that's what a lot of people are missing here too. Like, let's not get this. Like, Utah's focus is Nikola Jokic. He's the head of the snake. Okay, when you cut that off, or you kind of hold the mouth from not biting you, you're forcing everyone to beat you. And thankfully for the Nuggets, Jamal has gone supernova, and now the snake has 2 heads seemingly. Mm-hmm. There's this head that you didn't think about, and now it's piercing you from the right hand side. So that's that part of it. But when people are like, Jay Williams, Keyshawn Johnson, and Zubin Mehenti, I think his last name is, when they're going out saying, this is no longer Jokic's team, this is now Jamal's team, and so, some people are throwing out the superstar, like not just star, but like he's a superstar, and I'm like, whoa, like wait a minute.
But he's,
I love Jamal.
Right. I'm okay with
yet.
Right. I'm okay with you saying he's playing like a superstar, and he's that guy right now.
Right.
And I've said this before. I do think that when it's all said and done, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, when we look back at this group, I do think that at the end of the day, we're going to say Jamal Murray was a better player than Nikola Jokic.
Well, we're both in agreement that he needs to be. Eventually, he or Porter have to be.
I think Jamal will be. And one thing, and we can get to Porter maybe later. I don't know in this episode, but one thing is, I'm a little bit nervous with Porter. But with Jamal, he just has that thing that not a lot of players do. Like, not even LeBron has that. Like, there's a switch up in Jamal's brain that he just hits the only other player that I've seen hit that I've watched personally is Kobe. That is the only.
I think it's just aggression. It's just relentless aggression.
That's the only other like what these last 3 games. The only player I can compare it to is Kobe. Now LeBron's gone and done some crazy things, but it's different. It's more of a control of the game to where It's not. It's almost like when in 2K when you get the team takeover, that's LeBron, right? Whereas Kobe, it was right before you get to the team takeover. Nah, I'm using it on just myself, right? And that's what Kobe did. And these last 3 games, I'm not saying that Jamal is Kobe. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the only other player that I've ever seen that from is Kobe. And Donovan Mitchell is doing it a little bit, but there's a difference between Donovan and Jamal. Like, Donovan's great, and he had 44, and he's been absolutely incredible, right?
Uh-huh.
But who's the one closing out these games better? It's been Jamal. Jamal's 3-1 in these closeout games.
Right, when it
comes
head
down
to
to
head and it's back and forth,
he's
the
3-1
overtime game and it's close. He's closed them out.
He's
Now,
4-1 now.
Now Donovan's a bad man. Okay?
Right.
Like,
yeah, I'm not
if
discounting
I'm choosing right now, if you're asking me who would I rather have, right now I'm taking Donovan still.
In the last 5 minutes, I'm taking Jamal.
That's fair, and that's a fair argument. But overall, I'm taking Donovan because he's a little bit more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He averages in the regular season 23 to 25.
Right.
He's already there. Now I think he's a little bit older than Jamal, but he's there. Now long term, maybe Jamal surpasses him. But right now, I'm still taking Donovan. I think all scorers. I get what you're saying. I think all great scorers have that mode where they can get into. Kobe obviously made it with the Mamba mentality that makes it famous. But I think all great scorers, James Harden, Kevin Durant. I mean, we've seen all these guys go on. Steph Curry. Everybody just forgets about Steph Curry. It's funny how we just forgot about Steph, and Steph is still the baddest man. He started this revolution of I'm pulling up from half court and I'm draining this. Right. Damian Lillard. I mean, there's guys in this league who can go to that level of even if your hand is in their eyeballs poking them, they somehow net it in your face. But again, with Jamal, it's just I'm worried that this is just a hot wave that he's riding, kind of like TJ Warren did in the seeding games. Because say they do get past Utah. Okay, now you're going to the Clippers, and there's 3 dogs over there on defense that will probably see time on Jamal. It's Kawhi, it's Paul George, and it's Patrick Beverley, if he's healthy, because he hasn't played at all. He didn't play at all in that last series. So that's what I'm really worried about. So if Jamal can stand out tonight in Game 7 and they win, okay, good. Now I'm about 80-90% to plant my flag there. If you can take the Clippers to, and I don't think they would beat the Clippers, but if you could take them to 5, maybe 6, if it's 5 tough games and Jamal comes out, he's 25 and he's looking good. Yeah. Or if it's 6 and he's 25, 30 points, okay. Then I think I'm fully there and ready.
Yeah, he doesn't have to hit 50.
No, and that's unrealistic. I hope people don't expect Jamal to do that. Because, that's just unrealistic. Okay,
no, this is stupid.
What he's doing is stupid. This is stupid.
Yeah.
How he's shooting and what he's doing. It's like when you watch Damian Lillard and stuff. That's just stupid good. You just laugh at it and you're just this is just painful to watch if you're on the other team. But if you're on your team, you just at some point you just giggle. You're like, ooh. You just can't. You can't help it, right? But that's kind of where I'm at with Jamal. Also, when I look at last year, they had 2 Game 7s last year. The first one Jamal did not play well in at all.
He didn't hit a single 3 in both Game 7s.
Well, let's see. So Game 7 against the Spurs, I didn't think he played well. I don't really remember this game, but
he hit the dagger.
Right, he had the dagger mid range. He was 9 of 19, so he actually played a good game here. 23 points. That's a good Jamal game. But in Game 7 against Portland, now to Jamal's defense, everybody not named Jokic did not show up that day.
Yeah,
and they only lost by 4. So I mean, if Jamal he missed 4 threes, and he shot 22% in that game in 38 minutes. So he didn't show up there. So tonight's going to be a big night for Jamal. Now again, he doesn't need to go for 40 or 50, but if he can,
does he need to though?
For them to win, probably. And for Utah, for them to win, Donovan's got to go for 70. Maybe not 70, but he's got to go for 40 or 50. They both have to match each other. That's for these 2 teams to win. The other has to beat the other. That's where it has to be. It's Donovan has to be more than Jamal, and Jamal has to be more than Donovan. They have to at least match each other.
Well, you know what? Let's get into it. Okay. if you're Utah,
Mhm.
what do you do? Because after the game on TNT, there's two sides, right?
Mhm.
There's, why the hell aren't you doubling Jamal? What are you doing, Utah? I mean, even I was late in that game. I was like, what is Utah doing? You're letting him get whatever the hell he wants. But at the same time, I'm like, well, because they doubled him once. And ball swung, dunk for Porter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So you kind of forget, look, Porter had a bad game. He had 12 rebounds. He had 12 rebounds, which was fantastic, and he was good defensively. But the one bucket was a dunk that Jamal got doubled. It swung twice, and Porter was wide open underneath.
Torrey drives in and he dumps it off to Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like we forget that Porter is that, and that's why Porter was in the game. I was wondering. I was like, why is Malone in the game? Or why is Malone putting Porter in the game? Or why is he leaving him in there at this time? But it's because I think he was waiting for Utah to double Jamal. And if they double Jamal, in his mind, he's like, well, Porter's going to be wide open in the corner.
Yeah.
And he's going to hit it.
It was Jamal, it was MPJ, it was Jokic, it was Grant.
And Torrey.
And was it Gary?
It was Torrey.
Okay. So, yeah, that's what they finished with.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine if maybe Will was healthy, Will would be out there.
Right. So what would you do if you're Utah going in Game 7?
Well, that's the thing. Okay. So and here's why they're forcing everyone to beat them, because again, the head of the snake is still Jokic. And it's funny that people are so down on Jokic, right? And they're so quick to give this to Jamal. And I think it's and I'll get to your question. I think it's one of two reasons, okay? Jokic is naturally passive because his best skill set is facilitating and getting his teammates involved.
He's loving what Jamal is doing.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And I think that's why naturally they've seen that and they're like, okay, we're ready to crown someone else, because there's times where he doesn't take it, but he has the talent to where he can take it over.
Right.
Okay, so that's number one. Number two, he is a 7-foot, oddly shaped man. He doesn't look like your normal superstar. He's a Serbian guy. He's just weird. He has this weird move that looks like a broken step back in 2K. Okay, that's his signature move. He's so just gangly. He has weird movements. He's human fall flat in 7-foot form. That's what he is. Okay, that is Nikola Jokic in a nutshell. And people don't want that as their star. He doesn't fit the mold of what a star is. He's not AD. He's not LeBron. He's not Giannis. He doesn't fit that mold. So I think that's two reasons. But at the end of the day, he's still the head of the snake. I put it out on Twitter. If you look at Nikola, it seems like he's having a down series. Look at his numbers. It's like 28, 31, 20. Now, last game he had, I think, 21 or 23, something like that. But he's still
20. He had 20. He had 22, 9 assists, 4 rebounds.
Exactly. And game before that, before Jamal went supernova the second time, who was it that kept the Nuggets alive? Who set the tone? It was Jokic. 21 points in the first quarter, 8 for 8 from 3. Okay, and he hits that weird throwing it up 3 at the buzzer where he's not even shooting it. He's just kind of like, yeah. He just tosses it up there.
He's doing all of that, by the way, against a 2-time defensive player
of the year. So, okay, that's what you have to keep in mind. Okay, getting back to your question. If I'm Utah, I'm sticking to what our plan is. I think it's too late now to switch it up, because the last thing I want to do.
So you're gonna let Jamal go for 50 again?
I'm gonna hope that he doesn't. I'm gonna hope that he has a Jamal night where he's inconsistent, and then at that point, Porter beat me. If you can put up 27, 30, which you've done once this series, okay, I'll live with that.
Jeremy Grant.
Torrey Craig is gonna put up 15, okay, I'm gonna live with that. If Jeremy Grant's gonna hit another 6 to 8 threes, I'm gonna live with that. Whereas, like you said, if you try and blitz Jamal, my God, you better rotate quickly, because if that gets to Jokic, that's a layup. If that gets to Jokic and he's open, it's likely a 3 or a mid-range jumper. Guys are cutting.
And then Porter and Grant are still going to kill you.
Exactly. At this point, I think if you're Utah, it's too late in the game. Just believe. Maybe now, that's not to say that in certain instances you can't force him. You can't hard hedge and switch things up. I don't think the whole game you want to go one-on-one coverage unless he's shooting terribly.
Well, do they have the personnel to do what Denver's doing and say against Donovan Mitchell?
Well, and that's the thing. They don't have that. Royce O'Neal is their Torrey Craig, right? As Ryan Blackburn told us.
Right.
So he's probably their best defender. Obviously, Rudy Gobert's their best defender, but he can't come out and guard Jamal.
Yeah, you know.
So
we saw
Royce
how that
O'Neal,
went.
Right. He's their best perimeter defender. Other than that, Mike Conley back in the day was a tough defender.
Mhm.
Now, not so much. Donovan, obviously, I mean, he's willing to take on Jamal, but I mean, he's still got.
Well,
like
here's
2
the
or 3
problem.
Threes drained in his face.
You put Royce O'Neal on Jamal, Jamal's gonna blow by him. You put Conley on him, he's gonna beat him up, right? And he's quicker, he's bigger, he's gonna post him up.
Yeah.
We've seen it already. Honestly, the best matchup is probably putting Donovan on him. But then Donovan's only 6'1". What's Jamal gonna do? He's gonna
Right.
post him up.
Well, and there's a few
Jamal is a
times when he
mismatch
did get
nightmare
switched.
for them.
Yeah. Well, and there's a few times that Donovan did get switched on him, and there's part of him I think that wanted that matchup,
Mhm.
but Jamal like netted 2 or 3 threes
Right.
in his face. And even though Donovan can get his bucket on Jamal, Jamal can come back down and get his bucket on Donovan.
Jamal's
So-
not a point, like in my mind, he's no longer a point guard.
He's just the modern combo guard. Today.
Well, yeah, but he has a little bit more of just watching that game and just watching him. All I could see, I'm not comparing him to him, and I'm not gonna say he's gonna be him, but all I could see was Kobe out there. That's literally the only person I could see out there. Except that the 3-point shooting was stupid, and that was honest. But the other things that he can do, he can get to the rim. He's athletic enough. I mean, he had a 360 layup where at the end it looked like a normal layup. He hadn't hung up that long. But on not only that, he can post you up, and he can hit the turnaround jumper. He can hit the mid range. He can do everything.
Yeah, he's a complete scorer.
And all I could see was Kobe. That's all I could see when I was watching him play. And it makes sense because Jamal's favorite player is Kobe. His second favorite is Steph. Right? So you see literally these last 3 games, you see those 3 or those 2 in what he's been doing. But I don't know how you stop him. I don't, because he can score in every way, and Denver hasn't had someone like this since Melo. And honestly, not even Melo was doing this.
What's Jamal's best skill set? What is his best? When you think about Jamal, what is his best skill? For me, he knocks down tough shots.
Yeah.
That's his best skill.
Yep.
He's obviously a great scorer. He's an all-around scorer.
He's better at hitting tough shots than he is wide open shots.
He will forego an open shot if there's no one on him. He will turn around and fade away.
Right.
That's Jamal. Like, that should be a meme, that Jamal will forego an open shot to take a contested shot, which drives me nuts at times. But he can hit those.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because Mike Singer of the Denver Post put out an article where he talked to Coach Calipari, and there was a quote in there from Coach Cal about him talking to Jamal about these type of shots.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he's like, these are terrible shots. And Jamal's like, yeah, but I can hit those more than half the time. And then Cal's like, oh my God, he can. And so at that point, it's a good shot for Jamal. So, he's the ultimate. No. Okay, good shot, Jamal. That's what Jamal can do. And you take that. You live with that. But no, I mean, his best skill is being able to knock down tough shots. And First Take, they had the conversation because Jamal Murray was front and center of all the national shows yesterday.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Good
And ESPN, they tried to compare Jamal. Who does he compare to? And they couldn't come up with a perfect comp because you can't. But names like Dwayne Wade were thrown out. Names like Kyrie Irving were thrown out. And they ultimately settled on, because Kendrick Perkins got a text from somebody, and he's like, who this guy reminds me of? It's Gilbert Arenas. And that's who they kind of settled on. And Gilbert in his day, and Stephen A. pointed out, before he lost it up here, Gilbert was a walking bucket.
Right.
And he could do it from anywhere as well. So that might be a good comp for Jamal. Because Gilbert, I think in his prime, had 3 years where he was averaging 25, 28 points per game.
Yeah, no, Gilbert Arenas was a top 3 player in the league at certain times. I have his numbers up here. So once he hit, it's funny. I'm telling you, the age, I'm
Mm.
so at age 20 he averaged 11. At age 21 he averaged 18. At age 22 he averaged 19. At age 23, 25 and a half. 24, 29 points per game. 25, 28 points per game. He also averaged 6 assists and 4 rebounds per game.
Sounds like Jamal stats.
That sounds like Jamal. Gilbert Arenas is also, he was 6'3", so Jamal's bigger. He was 6'3", 191. Jamal's 6'4", 6'5",
Probably
215.
205. Yeah, 215.
He's closer to Kobe's body. You know, that normal two guard body, right? Where, especially gaining that weight. But yeah, he has the shooting because, you know, obviously Kobe didn't have that shooting.
Yeah, not until later. I mean,
Yeah.
but even then, he wasn't known as a
Well,
crazy shooter.
I forget who was talking about this. But think about this. When Steph was going crazy, right?
Mhm.
That was in 2013. When he did it to the Nuggets, it was in 2013.
That's when he burst on the scene.
Right. 2013, 2014, 2015, when he literally changed the NBA forever. Well, guess what? That was 2013. That was 7 years ago. How old was Jamal? He was 16.
Yeah, 16. Yeah.
Same with Donovan Mitchell, 16, 17. That seeing that does something. Like, you know, like that's like at 16 years old, that's what I want to do. Right? And so if it wasn't for Steph, these guys wouldn't be able to shoot the way they shoot. Like, that Steph completely changed the game forever.
Steph is the one guy who, on a fast break, forgoes the layup and stops at the 3-point line and shoots.
And Jamal did it. He had a 3 versus 1.
Direct correlation to. I've never seen anyone other than Steph Curry, and you know now it's more popular in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anyone before Steph Curry do that.
Yeah.
And Steph first did that, so it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's the sexier thing to do, to stay out on the perimeter and shoot threes.
And the analytical thing to do, too.
Yeah.
The better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think with Jamal, again, looping all the way back to this, I think, and we can give our Game 7 predictions here and how we think it's going to go. I just think for me, just to kind of finish this thought of why I'm not there with Jamal, you know, obviously it's the consistency. I'm not there yet. The bubble, I think there's some things that have changed that allow for this. It's not a normal season. And these are huge things. Now, it's not to say that I don't think Jamal's talented, because again, we both agree for the Nuggets to get where they want to go, it's well known Jokic just can't be that guy. He has the talent to be that guy, but he doesn't have the switch to where he can just and Embiid is questioned about this sometimes too, where he's 100% aggressive all the time. Plus, I just don't think your center can be your best player.
Yeah.
So it has to be Jamal. It has to be MPJ. Jamal right now looks like the most likely candidate. Now, obviously, MPJ's in his red shirt, or had a red shirt his first year, so now he's technically still a rookie. So he still has so much.
But I'm not sure MPJ has it up here.
I don't think he's an aggressive guy either. I don't think he's an aggressive killer either. So, and I'm glad you've noticed that, because I've noticed that about him too.
Yeah.
He seems like just a nice guy, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, he's a nice guy who can drop 30 on your face, and he's only 21. But I don't see him as a killer. And maybe that comes with time. Maybe he's still just filling himself out. Was Kobe Bryant a killer at age 18, 19?
Yeah.
Was he though? Was he like snarling at people? Maybe he was. But anyways, I think maybe that's something he can grow into. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But Jamal looks like it's that guy for right now. But at the end of the day, I just don't see how we can crown Jamal as this is his team. He's the best player, when you have a guy who's a 2-time All-Star. He was first team, if I'm not mistaken. The first All-NBA team. The first guy to do that since Thompson, I believe it was, because Melo didn't make a first team All-NBA while he was here, which is kind of crazy to me. Jokic was the first guy. And then, you know, people are saying, you know, I heard last night on one of the shows on the station I work for, and they're saying that Jokic doesn't show up in big moments.
Yeah, he does.
And he's not clutch. And I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. There was a stat that came out during this regular season that Jokic has the most go-ahead buckets of anyone in the NBA since like 2015 or 26, something like that. Some crazy stat. That's over Paul George. That's over Kevin Durant.
Well, that's easy to do
Kawhi
over
Leonard.
Paul George. Why did you have to put Paul George in that
Okay,
list?
don't be disrespectful. Chris Middleton's not even in the conversation. But I'm just saying, like, he's over James Harden, over Damian. It's Nikola Jokic. Okay, that's one. Are we just that quick to forget what this man did last year in the playoffs?
It's easy to forget because he doesn't he doesn't do what Jamal does. He doesn't
No.
he
It's not
doesn't
the
yell. He
typical-
doesn't
No.
you know.
And that's why I think a lot of people forget, because he's not a demonstrative guy.
Yeah.
He's not an in-your-face guy. He's not dribbling through his legs. He's not stopping at the three-point line on a fast break and shooting a three. He looks like
Yeah.
even though he's slimmed down, he's like a chunky human fall flat character on the court, but he's giving you 25 in your face. He's passing it behind his head and your head, and there's a dunk. And oh, by the way, he's getting 12 rebounds. So it's like, how is this even possible?
Mhm.
It's like he's the ultimate. It's like the guy that was always picked last at school in games for sports. It's like that guy had a glow up and is now dominating the NBA. And you're like, he sucked though. He couldn't even hit a shot. He was overweight. He ate his boogers in class. I saw it. But he ate glue. I saw it. He peed his pants that one time in math. But he's out here giving me 27, 8, and 7. Why is this happening to me? You know, that's Nikola Jokic. I just don't think we're there yet with Jamal. Okay, give me a full season and a full playoffs of that.
I was gonna ask you
Then
what will it take? Can he
a full season.
prove that to you right now in the bubble?
No.
No matter
Not
what
right.
happens,
No
if
matter
he
what
carries them to an NBA championship.
Well, that's not gonna happen. if that happens, I will shave my head and my eyebrows. And
You heard it. You
Yes,
heard it. You
yes,
heard it.
If Jamal leads the Nuggets to an NBA Finals, I will shave my head and my eyebrows and my eyelashes. I will shave everything.
Wait,
what I will do.
wait. Can I pluck your eyelashes? Can I?
Sure.
Give you?
Weird question, but sure, if that's what you want to do. It's not gonna happen. No, regardless of what Jamal does, and even if they win tonight, I don't think they get past the Clippers. The Clippers are just that good. I think the Clippers are going to the NBA Finals. But no, he can't prove it to me this year. He has to prove it to me next year if he's around 24 to 26 points per game. And then if they make it to the playoffs, obviously barring health and no crazy moves this summer, and he's doing this again to where he's at the 20, I'm not even saying he's 30. If he's 24 to 27 points per game in the playoffs, okay. Now if he's taking this, let me just say it this way. If he's taking this, not obviously averaging 40, 50, but if he's playing this like this, a notch down, and he does it in the regular season and the playoffs, then okay, I'm there. I'm ready to crown Jamal as the guy. Right now, I don't think there's anything, at least for me, that he can do to prove that, because you still have a 2-time All-Star who is the head of the snake. Let's not forget who leads this team here. Okay, Jamal wasn't doing this in the regular season. It was on the back of Nikola Jokic. And that's who carried them the first time around to the playoffs. And he's a passive player. It's similar to LeBron. Jokic isn't LeBron, but they're both facilitators. They both like to get everyone else involved, and then when they need to, they'll go. And it's sometimes you have to like beg and plead with them, please just take over the game. And when they do, you're like, see, if you just do this every time, we wouldn't have to be in this situation, because they both can do it. But no, I'm just not ready to go there yet with Jamal and just give this team over when it's just one playoffs in a different circumstance of playoffs.
Right. Yeah. And I'm okay with saying it's his team right now. And by right now, I mean Game 7.
Now, I will say this, though. Jamal is the alpha of this team, which is kind of weird, because I'm not ready to give the team to him, but he's definitely the dog, the alpha, the main leader of this team. That he's already taken.
Well, I think he's grown up a lot. You know, in the 4-month break, and then in this series, he's grown up a lot, and I think that's what he needed to officially take that step. But again, he can't really take that step until next season, until there's a regular, normal life, right? So, yeah, you can't really say it yet, but what you can say is he's hit the age. He has the mentality, and he has a team right now. And Jokic has handed him the keys.
Yeah.
That's the last piece.
I think
Jokic has
been waiting.
Jokic has had it wrapped in a box with a nice bow on it,
Crumble box, crumble box,
probably with a few cookies in there.
Yes. I love
Um,
eating crumble with him.
and he has been waiting. It has been sitting, or it has been in his suitcase for the last 2 years, and he has
You
been
imagine
waiting
Jokic
to
carrying a
give it to him.
suitcase?
His backpack, whatever. It has been waiting. he has a little briefcase. You know, this little silver briefcase that has a
that
combo.
carries like money and important things.
Right.
That you see that every villain is after
Yes.
in every like suspenseful
Yes.
movie.
He's been protecting it and waiting for Jamal to take it because he does not want it.
Can I just say Jokic is the ultimate just guy I would love to hang out with? Like I saw the Nuggets post a tweet the other day before Game 6, and Jokic was literally walking to the bus in some flip-flops, some basketball shorts, and like a graphic tee and some glasses, and he was swinging his keychain. And I was like, man, he looks like he's like a 20-year-old kid in college. Someone put the caption there like Jokic has that freshman college boy going to the dorm hall to get some food vibes. And another guy was like, Jokic would totally share his lunch swipes with you if you asked him. Like, Jokic just looks like the ultimate cool guy that I just wish he would just let me into his life. Like, I would be his maid at his house if he wanted me to. I would clean his toilets, honestly. This is real low for me, but I would do it. Same with Phil. Phil, if you ever need someone to clean your toilets, just let me know.
That's a step down.
That's my ultimate goal. I say this all the time. That's my ultimate goal in life. My dream is to be best friends with Nikola Jokic and Philip Lindsay, and we can just hang out together and eat crumble cookies. that's just my goal in life. But yes, I mean, he's been waiting for someone to take it, and Jamal has the talent to do it, and MPJ definitely has the talent to do it. Now MPJ, I mean, we're light years, away from where he's gonna be. But maybe ultimately, you know what? Maybe this is a situation where it's next year or the year after that. It's okay. Now it's Jamal's team. Jokic is the 2, and MPJ is the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe we get to, now this is obviously if they all stay here, we get to a situation where it's now it's Jamal's the 2, MPJ's the 1, and Jokic is the 3 on this team. You know, that's the hierarchy of this team and how it goes in terms of talent. If that happens, if they don't get a championship, I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how. If all these guys reach their peak, which one seems to be close to his peak right now in Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal, we see what his peak could be. Now it's just a matter of he can do it consistently and get there. MPJ, he's the ultimate unicorn. I mean, that guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's not forget Bol Bol is a weird X factor.
The Nuggets just have weird looking dudes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, weird looking dudes that just play well. Like Skeletor is sitting on the bench, and he can drop 20 on your face too if you're not being careful. So it's going to be interesting. But let's get to Game 7. All right, this is what everybody's here for. I'm completely nervous, so I don't know how tonight's going to go. It's on ESPN or ABC.
Yeah,
it's the late game, so all eyes and this is everybody, all national guys. They're all waiting for this game. I think Max Kellerman said
this is the perfect time for the Nuggets to flop on their face.
Yes, and why would you say that? Because that's what I'm thinking, and now you've voiced it. Now you've manifested.
I mean, every time the Nuggets are in this position, they fall flat on their face. They're literally human fall flat, and they just plop down and go into a puddle of ice cream.
You had to say it.
Yeah.
So now, for all of you listening, Twitter, there's the Jinxie Cat. What happens tonight? Jinxie Cat. Boom. You don't get to watch tonight. You stay away. You keep that negative energy, and you stay away. You go watch rugby or something tonight, all right? Make another 2K video. Don't you come near them tonight. But no, that's what I've been thinking too. And honestly, I think this could go either way. I think the Nuggets are the more talented team. I think Gary provides them a different element. But I mean, Donovan is a bad man. And I could honestly see arguments for both teams. For the Utah Jazz to win, I think Donovan's going to have to carry that team. And if the Jazz obviously shoot lights out, which they've done in every win, where it just seems like they cannot miss.
They need Conley.
I think for the Jazz to win tonight, Donovan's got to go for at least 35. Conley's got to go for at least 20. You got to get at least 15 to 20 from Clarkson, and then you hope Rudy Gobert piles in 10 to 17. Niang hits 2 threes, which he seems to be good for every game. Ingles gets you 12.
Mm-hmm.
That's something they can do. They've done it already. And for the Nuggets, I think Jamal has to go for at least 30, 35. I think Jokic has to go for at least 25 to 30, 35. And then at that point, it's who's going to be the third guy. Because like I said, I think Donovan and Jamal, ideally, will cancel each other out. Who's going to cancel Jokic out? It's going to have to be a combination of guys. It's going to have to be, Conley and Clarkson. That's what it's going to have to be. Okay, who's going to be the third guy for the Nuggets? Is it MPJ? Is it Jeremy Grant? Paul Millsap? Who is it at that point? So, I mean, this game could go either way. I think logically, I'm picking the Nuggets because they're the better team. Now with Gary Harris back, I think he provides a different element. With my brain, I'm saying the Nuggets. With my heart and my gut, I think it's more so out of fear and pessimism. I think it's Utah. I don't know. Where are you at with it?
I'll say this. I think this is the MPJ game. I think we've been waiting. I know he had.
Could you imagine?
I know he had 28 in game 2, but that was more garbage minutes. This is the MPJ game because
Nuggets Twitter will lose their mind. I will probably die tonight if MPJ.
I'm not saying he's gonna go for 40. I think he gives you 25 to 30. And I think it's because Jamal Murray doesn't give you 40 or 50. I think Jamal Murray gives you maybe 25 to 30 as well. But I think it's because I don't think Utah's going to double him, but I think they're going to be more physical with him. I think they're going to meet him up higher. I think they're going to play him like Denver has played Mitchell. I think they're going to play him like, teams played Dame. They're just going to try and be physical. And look, Jamal's 6'5". He's bigger than all the guys that they're going to throw at him, right? Other than Royce O'Neal, but then he's faster. So he does have that mismatch where he can take advantage and he can beat their physicalness. Physicality. They can beat their.
What we do here is we make points.
He can not necessarily beat their doubles, but if they do double him, it's the team can beat them. So I don't think Utah's gonna keep it the same. I really don't. I think they're gonna show him different things. I think they're gonna switch it up multiple times, and that leaves it open for MPJ. I think Jeremy Grant could have a big game too, but I think this is and MPJ is coming off of a 1 for 7 and 0 for 5 from 3. Every time he comes off of a game like that, it's a 25-point game from MPJ. He is where Jamal was 2 years ago, right? Where he's going to give you 20, then he's going to give you 2. Then he's going to give you 25, and then he's going to give you 3, right? Yeah. He is in that boat, and I think that it is lining up to be, and we saw Malone late in that game was waiting because he left MPJ in there, which didn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that he was waiting for Utah to double Jamal. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you, he told MPJ, sit your ass in that corner and wait till they double him, right? And
puppy.
Right.
Sit.
Right. And if you see opening, get to the rim and cut, just like you do. And that's what he did, right? They double Jamal, ball swings to Torrey drives, dump off to MPJ, dunk. So this is the MPJ game. That's my guess. And if that happens, Denver wins. Here's the thing. If they leave it the same and they don't do anything with Jamal, I still think Denver wins. I think whatever Utah does, Denver has an answer. Now, if you do try and take Jamal out, it is on the backs of MPJ, Jeremy Grant. I think you can still limit Jokic even if you're doubling Jamal, or at least
still has the defensive player of the year.
Right, because you can just leave Gobert on him on an island. And look, Jokic can beat Gobert on an island, but it's not 70-30, 80-20. It's 50-50, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think
So
Gobert
you're
has been
okay
very
with that.
impressive on him.
Right. So you're okay with leaving Gobert one-on-one with Jokic and bring that double from Jeremy Grant's guy, MPJ's guy. I think I'm very concerned about Torrey Craig playing in this game because all you have to do is take Torrey Craig's guy off of him and double Jamal. But if the ball swings to Torrey needs to be smart. He needs to hit those threes in that corner. What he also needs to do is what he did when they did double Jamal. Get to the rim. Because you're going to be open. And guess what? MPJ is either going to be right there with you or in the corner. So, again, there's an answer to everything that Utah will do. Denver has an answer. And it's not just guys that are in that starting lineup. It's guys coming off the bench. And look, if Gary hits 2 threes, I don't know what you can do if you're Utah.
Don't get my hopes up.
I mean, the first 3 he took was way off. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's rusty.
Gary hits a floater tonight, we're winning.
I think.
That's all I'm saying.
I think if Gary hits if he goes 3 for 7, that is massive, right? Especially if 2 of those are threes. That's 8 points right there. That is massive. And not only what Gary's so great at doing too is he's great at getting to the rim. And if he's not putting up a floater, he's a great finisher.
That's what I was saying. If it's 8 points just off of cuts, and getting to the foul line.
Other than
he's
the best cutter on the team. Other than MPJ, he's the best cutter.
Well, it seems like out of all players, that's who Jokic almost finds the most when he's cutting. Is Gary. And we saw it. I mean, he had that and one where he's chest to chest with the guy, and he finishes. He's a great finisher, like you said, but he looks so explosive for missing. That's what blows my mind. He missed 5 months. He hasn't played a game in 5 months, and not only did he look great defensively, but he had explosion offensively when he was, getting to the basket. Now, obviously, I think his handle's a little rusty because he couldn't really get by anybody. But no, he looked great. But so you think that Denver comes away with the win tonight?
I do, because I think they have more answers to what Utah's going to throw at them.
I hope you're
but
right.
Here's how Utah wins. You play the same way that you've been. You play Jamal the same way, and Jamal just can't here. If I'm Utah, this is what I do. I have the same game plan going into the game. Give it the first quarter. And if Jamal is hitting shots, then I switch it, right? And I get more physical. I meet him up higher. I hedge. I double, whatever I need to do. But if he, in the first quarter is like 1 for 5, 2 for 6, okay, I leave it. Because and once he gets going, the second he maybe hits 2 shots in a row, boom, double, boom, hedge, right? And then maybe the next time down, like switch it up. Don't just go all one way or all this, you know what I mean? Like, give him different looks and make him think you're gonna double this time around. Make him think you're gonna push him up higher, right? Meet him up higher, because then the ball's gonna get out of his hands. He's gonna get rid of the ball. Now, if you're Jamal, you need to understand. If you're Malone too, you need to tell Jamal that's gonna happen, and you need to have that IQ. You need to have that ability to know what they're gonna do. And that's also up to Jokic too, because Jokic is going to have a big first quarter or someone else, Jokic, MPJ, Grant, Monte Morris. We haven't talked about Monte Morris. Monte could have a big game here. We've always talked about these game 7s. It's usually not the stars that have a massive game 7. It's the other guys. Someone else needs to have a big game for the Nuggets. I'm putting my money on MPJ tonight. But in that first quarter, someone like Grant, Monte, Jokic, or even Paul Millsap, whatever, even him,
So much hate there.
someone needs to at least start the game off hot. Just like in Game 5 where it was Game 5, right? Yeah, Game 5 where Jokic started 8 for 8 from the field in the first quarter. They need someone like that to have that type of impact in the first quarter. If that happens, it's not all on Jamal, and it takes a lot of pressure off Jamal. And then Utah can't. They're going to feel like, okay, well, we can't double him because we're going to get killed by this guy who's killing us right now. So that's what they need. If they have someone like that to get off to a hot start, Denver's winning it.
Yeah.
And then because Jamal will close in the fourth. The ball will be in Jamal's hands, and it's going to be a close game. And when the ball is in, you have to keep it close. If you're Denver, you have to keep it close. If you're Utah, you have to blow them out. Yeah. But if Denver can keep it close and be within 4 points or even have a couple point lead with 5 minutes to go, it's going to be the Jamal show.
My eyes are really going to be on Jokic tonight. And obviously, I don't know if Jamal's going to be able to do what he did. You know, I'm looking at him, but this is where I just have a funny feeling that Jamal's not going to be able to do what he's done. And Jokic has, I hope tonight he's coming with the mentality, preparing for that scenario. Mm-hmm. That, okay, he's not doing it. It's me now. I have to do it. It's so counterintuitive to how he wants to play basketball because he just wants to play it the right way. But there's times where it's, you know what, it has to be you right now. And I just hope he's preparing for that tonight.
I trust him to do that because he did it last year in both Game 7s.
Right. And you see, I mean, 21 points in the first quarter, 8 for 8. It's there.
Right.
I think he knows when he has to do it. I just hope tonight he's preparing for it. Mm-hmm. If Jamal is not there, it has to be me. Even if there is double teams, even if it is Gobert, I got to make an impact. Yeah. And like I said, I think they always need to set the tone with Nikola Jokic. That play where he passes it off, someone sets him a screen, he goes to the opposite block, and he gets either a post up. That's either going to be a foul, he's passing it off, or he's shooting it.
Get Gobert in foul trouble early on. Yep. Go right at him.
Oh, all right. It's a big game tonight, Nuggets fans.
8 hours away.
Yeah, hopefully on Friday we're talking about a win and figuring out how we're gonna take away.
Well, if they do win, by the time we talk next, game 1 would have already happened with the Clippers. Because I believe game 1 would be on Thursday. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna skip a day. So I think we're getting because round 2 in the East have already started.
Right. Well, maybe if they win, we do a special podcast, and if they lose, I don't know. We'll wait till Friday so we can withhold the misery. So I don't completely go angry and yell. Listen, I can't. Rodney Hood killed me last year. I can't do it again this year. I'm telling you, if it's Jordan Clarkson, if it's Niang, I swear to you, if it's Ingles, I love guy. If it's Ingles.
Hey, you know what? This is a game, Paul. Let's punch someone. You're not playing anyways.
No, we can't get.
Let's get physical here.
No, we can't.
Let's get. In the face. No. Let's get physical here. Paul needs to get physical.
No, well,
he played 19 minutes and was 1 for 3, and he was a -7. Get off the court, but do something while you're getting off the court, please.
Did that make you feel better?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate Paul Millsap right now.
This is not the game to punch someone in the head. We can't afford any unnecessary ejections. But physical, yes.
Hey,
I'll take that.
They elbowed Torrey. I know it was an accident, but he got elbowed in the nose. Get some payback.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's fair.
But have Paul do it because he can't do crap.
Send in Bol Bol.
You think Bol Bol with his tiny little arms is gonna do something?
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking, it could be more easily passed off. He's got long arms. Maybe he just loses control
That's
of
true.
them.
He can just do this.
Yeah, flail. He slaps somebody in the face, and then there it goes. We don't have a Marcus type of player on.
No, that's what I want. I want Paul Millsap to take on that Marcus Morris role. You're not doing anything anyways.
We need everybody tonight. All right, we can't have anyone get ejected for punching people.
They need Paul Millsap on the bench, is what they need.
Well, I don't think that's gonna happen. So I think you're gonna see the same starting lineup of
driving me nuts.
Monte, Jamal, Nikola, Jeremy, and Paul Millsap. I think that's what you're gonna see tonight because that's what's worked the last 2 games. So, but that's
Paul Millsap had the lowest plus. No, Monte did. Never mind, I lied.
After that game 1, Monte's been kind of hit and miss, which is really disappointing. But he did hit some big shots last game.
Yeah, I mean he was 4 of 6. 10
It
points.
seemed like the middle games since game 1, he just wasn't really
Yeah.
much. I don't know.
You
Anyways,
don't change the lineup though. You don't
No.
put Gary in the lineup.
No. No.
I keep it the same too.
Yeah. Because even though Gary looked good, I mean, Monte still gives you more offensively. And yeah, we just need to keep Gary fresh.
Yeah.
So he still hasn't played a game. Well, played one game in 5 months now. So
Yeah.
we still gotta
Yep.
worry about that. But that's gonna do it for us today. We thank you guys for listening, whether you've watched via YouTube or you're tuning in via the podcast later on. But thank you guys. We're hoping for a Nuggets win, and hopefully we're not depressed come tomorrow or Thursday, whenever the next podcast is. For Brandon Stoll on the other side, I'm Stephen Priest. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.